Alright, Green Bean back with another Hearthstone video. Today, we're going to be doing a pretty fun video in my opinion. We're going to be looking at the transfer student. And as you know, the transfer student has different effects based on which game board you're on. So today, inspired by this top comment on Reddit by user Viper the Killer Cobra, we're going to be doing a board tier list. Yes, we're going to do a board tier list. Somebody already had made this on this tier maker thing, so I decided to use this template. I guess Magic Sword 49 made this template. So we're gonna do a tier list. So it's also inspired. Let me scroll down here for a second. Here we are, by user RichmanCC. He went through and tested everything and made a list of what each effect does. So I'm gonna go and kind of swap back between this post on Reddit or this comment on Reddit, and then this game or all the game boards set up along here. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. Okay, starting with Horde. Deal 2 damage. So our options, I guess, for our rankings are OP, basically 3-drop, good 2-drop, average 2-drop, and garbage. So for Horde, dealing 2 damage. I'm gonna put that right now. I'm gonna start that as basically a 3-drop. So it's a 2-mana 2/2 being able to deal 2 damage. Like that's a pretty solid card. That's pretty solid. So I'd put like I'd say an average 3-drop would have that power. A comparable card I would think is the Blowgill Murloc Fish. It's a 2-mana 2/1 deal 1 damage. So this is just a strict upgrade in both stats and damage dealt from its battle cry. So that's just a pretty solid card. Okay, next. Stranglehorn. Stealth and Poisonous. So Stealth and Poisonous is a 2-mana 2/2. Like there's some comparable cards I can think of off the top of my head. There's the 2-mana 1/1 with Stealth and Poisonous. So like attack doesn't really matter when you have Poisonous. The stats matter. Like being a 2/2 versus a 1/1. I mean, obviously a 2/2 is better than that, but a 2-mana 1/1 Stealth Poisonous is more so, I'd say, annoying rather than like insanely good. So I'd put that as like a good 2-drop, not like borderline 3-drop. Because there is the 3-mana 2/2 Stealth Poisonous, but like that's a pretty weak card. So I mean, in that sense, I mean, if you're looking at it as like, oh well, I mean, there is a 3-drop that literally does that, then yes, I guess you can put that in basically a 3-drop. But is it really like a great 3-drop? Not really. So I'm more a good 2-drop. Maybe I mean like low, basically a 3-drop in my opinion. Okay, Stormwind, Divine Shield. So you just get a 2-mana 2/2 with Divine Shield. Like that isn't terrible, but isn't great either. I don't know where to. I'm in between average 2-drop and good 2-drop in this one. I think I'll start with like low end good 2-drop for that. I mean, 2-man 2/2 like Divine Shield's like it's good, but it's only used like to really utilize it effectively. I feel like you'd have to be playing a Paladin deck that has like buffs for Divine Shield minions and that kind of stuff, or like interaction with Divine Shield. Like if you just have that in a normal deck, just a 2-mana 2/2 is not extremely powerful, but I mean it's a solid card. All right, Pandaria, give a friendly minion +1/+2. I'm gonna say this is a good 2-drop. Let's say that's put it here. I'm gonna say it's a good 2-drop. I mean, being able to buff, it's a 2-mana 2/2. Being able to buff, give it +1/+2. That's pretty solid. Like a comparable card, there's the 3-mana 3/2, give a friendly minion +1/+1, which is picked up in arena sometimes. Not a great card, but you know, giving it's a 2-mana 2/2, you can buff +1/+2. I'd say that's pretty good. That's a good 2-drop. I could see that specific interaction being very helpful in an aggro deck. The problem with this transfer student card is consistency, in my opinion. Like these abilities may be good, but I feel like there's specific decks that you want to like interact with. So how can you build a deck and then end up with on a random game board and then not know like what effect it's gonna have. So that's the hard part. Okay, next Ramus. Death Rattle, add a random Death Rattle into your hand. Hmm. I'm gonna put this as a probably below the Divine Shield, good 2-drop. I might move some of these from good 2-drop down to average 2-drop, just kind of depending. But a 2-mana 2/2 get a Divine Shield, or not get Divine Shield, get a Death Rattle. Sorry, I was confused about the this Divine Shield, the Stormwind one. But like, I guess I might put the average 2-drop actually. Like, it's fine. It's just there's so many Death Rattles. It's hard to like. What's the average power of a Death Rattle minion? Like, fine, I guess, but not anything spectacular. Okay. GVG. So this is gnomes versus goblins, or goblins versus gnomes. One of those two. So Battlecry and Death Rattle. Add a spare part to your hand. So I pulled up what the spare parts were, in case you guys didn't know off the top of your head. So that you just get a random, like, they're just 1-mana spells that just do like mini effects like +1 health, freeze, stealth, swap, attack and health, taunt, return friendly minion, get +1 attack. Like, they're just okay. Like, not great effects. I'm gonna put that as an average 2-drop. Like, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but isn't like amazing. It's not something that you want. I might kind of shift everything down just kind of based off of compared to each other. So we'll see. I might move that to garbage if there's enough in like the average tier, but we'll see. Okay, Blackrock. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of a random card in your hand by 2. Okay. Like, realistically, it's probably only gonna get like 1 turn of that, of reducing, because it's a 2-mana 2/2. Like, it's not gonna stay on your board longer than like max 2 turns. So reduce the cost of a random card in your hand by 2. I guess so. You're essentially saying it's if you're reducing the cost of a random card in your hand by 2, then that's like essentially just like I mean, over a long term, it's just like a 0-mana 2/2 in that sense. But really, I'm just gonna put that as like a average. That's just pretty average 2-drop in my opinion. I wouldn't say that's like anything amazing. I mean, it's like fine. I guess if you could reduce, it's random is the problem. Like, if you could choose, then obviously would be good, but just it's just random. Okay, Grand Tournament, Inspire, draw a card. So Inspire is when you use your hero power, then it will trigger. So the problem with this is that it's just a 2-mana 2/2. So it's just not going to survive long enough. So basically, if you want this to go off, you'd have to use this on turn 4. Or turn 3, I guess, if you're Demon Hunter. But, like, I just feel like you just have better options than, like, a turn 4, what, you get a 2/2, draw a card, and then, like, your minor hero power effect. Like, really not that great. So I'll put that average. Might move that down to garbage. Let me see. Now we're League of Explorers, the excavation battle, or map thing. Let me see. Battle cry. Add a random weapon to your hand. Average weapon is really not significantly. It's not great. Like an average weapon is mediocre most of the time. So I'm gonna say that's just an average. I'll put that kind of like in the middle of the average. Like, some you could high roll and get a really good weapon, but this really an average weapon. Like, you might as well just have like a better card. Like, if you're relying on this effect or something, like why? Like, you might as well just put a good weapon in your deck. League of Explorers Museum, Battlecry, discover a new basic hero power. Just probably just average, maybe a little higher average. I mean, being able to discover a new hero power is fine, but I feel like you need a certain deck that's like, if you're playing a hunter deck and you have that card, then you have to want to swap hero powers, and you have to swap your strategy. Like, you can't be as aggressive because you can't finish off with your hero power. So you just have to be really careful if you were to have that effect and you wanted to change your hero power. So you just have to be careful with that. Let me see. Old Gods, Battle Cry. Spend all your mana, summon a minion of that cost. Okay. So I guess if you played this on what, like turn 4, then you get a 2/2 and a 2-drop. Not great. Like what, turn 6, a 2/2 and a 4/4. Like really not that great. I just feel like it's really not that good. I'm gonna put this in garbage. I just feel like it's just not like what, a 2/2 plus something like -2 of the amount of mana that you could get is really just you're just rolling. You're just trying to high roll at that point. Like, it's just not that great. Karazhan. Add a Karazhan portal to your hand. Okay, so I pulled up the Karazhan portals. The Firelands portal, very good portal. Ironforge portal, pretty good. Maelstrom portal, pretty solid. Moonglade, pretty solid, and Silvermoon portal, pretty solid. So I'd say all of these portals are pretty good on average. So I'd put generating one of those portals. I'm gonna put that as a good 2-drop. I put that as a good 2-drop. I think the portals are powerful enough where being able to generate one from a 2-mana 2/2 get a portal is pretty solid. Okay, Mean Streets, Battle Cry, give a random minion in your hand +2/+2. Giving a random in your hand +2/+2 as a 2-mana 2/2. Again, this is just one of those things where I feel like you need a certain deck where you're like planning on buffing minions in your hand for it to be useful. So, and you can't rely on, like, you have to have a certain deck archetype around it for this effect to be like actually really for it to be good. So I'm just gonna put this in the average. Put it right here, I guess, because there's just the problem with this is just way too inconsistent for you to form a deck around one specific one, like one specific thing. Like, yeah, Ungoro Battle Cry is adapt. A 2-mana 2/2 adapt. Like what? You could get like what, Divine Shield, so you just end up with the same as Stormwind, or you end up with Poisonous, which is just straight up worse than the Stealth Poisonous. Wind Fury. You could add plus health, so it could be a 2-mana like 2/5 potentially. I'm just trying to think of all the adapt things. I think this is probably average to good, just depending on what I guess has flexibility in that scenario, but if we put the Divine Shield one in the good, then I'll put the adapt up there because it can be you can get a Divine Shield and you can get about the same. I mean, it's obviously strictly worse than the Poisonous Stealth one if you were to choose Poisonous, so like it's kind of in that sense. But there's a little bit of flexibility in it, so that's helpful, I guess. Frozen Throne, Death Rattle. Add a random Death Knight card to your hand. Okay, let's look at the Death Knight cards. Okay, first let's look at the things that generate Death Knight cards. Look at the Arthas, Death Rattle. Add a random Death Knight card to your hand. It's just a 4-mana 2/2. 4-mana 2/2 for this effect. Or you could have a 2-mana 2/2 with the same exact effect as a 4-mana card. And just take a look at these Death Knight cards. Death Coil, Death Grip, Obliterate, Death and Decay, Anti-Magic Shell, Doom Pact, Army of the Dead. All of these are insane cards. All of these are insanely powerful. This right here is going to be our first OP. Like, a 2-mana, it's just a straight up, or whoops, 1 second. It's a straight up 2-mana reduction of Arthas, a legendary. I mean, albeit it's not a great legendary, but it's a 2-mana 2/2 with the same effect. Like, same stats, just straight up reduced mana cost. Like, that's incredibly powerful. Okay. Next. Where were we? Let me see. Cobalts. Battlecry. Recruit a minion that costs 2 or less. Like, a 2-mana 2/2 that can summon a 2/2-drop. Like, that's pretty good. Again, consistency with decks. Like this, the 2-mana 2/2 where you add a random Death Knight card to your hand, like, that's good in every deck. but recruiting a minion that costs 2 or less, like, that's little not as like, you need a specific deck for recruiting a minion cost 2 or less to be solid. So, like, I'm just mixed on that. Like, I just feel like that's has potential to be, like, good. I'm gonna put this at the bottom of good. Bottom of good. Like, borderline average to good. Like, obviously, if you're playing a deck that doesn't have any 2 drops or less, then it's just terrible. But, like, you could have potentially get 2 drops out on turn 2 if you were playing a good deck. So I'm put that, like, it's just not consistent enough for it to be, like, a really good card, but it has the potential in the right deck. Okay. Witchwood Echo Rush. So it's a 2-mana 2/2 with Echo Rush. I'm gonna put that as a good 2-drop. I'm gonna put that as a high-end good 2-drop. Um, yeah. High-end 2, like, at what, turn 10, you could play 5 of them. Like, I think that's just solid. Turn 4, you could play 2/2s with Rush. Or you could just play it on turn 2 as a 2/2 Rush. Like, that's just fine. So I'd say it's a pretty solid. Like, you can use it throughout the game, which makes it kind of flexible. Okay, Boomsday, Taunt. Battle Cry. If you have 10 mana crystals, gain +5/+5. So on turn 10, it could be a 7/7 taunt, but otherwise it's just a 2/2 taunt. Um, hmm. I'm gonna put this in like the middle, like good 2-drop, because like most of the time when you get it, it's just a 2/2 taunt, but it has potential. Or where did I move it? I think was it this one? Yeah. I'll put it like lower end good, like eh. Like, I don't know, not great. Like, I mean, if you get a 7/7 taunt turn 10, like, it's a 2 mana for 7/7 taunt, which is obviously good. But, like, how consistent that is, I don't know. I mean, it's just fine. Rastakhan, Rush and Overkill, draw a card. I mean, having Rush is good, but an Overkill, draw a card is obviously a nice effect, but it's a 2 mana 2/2. So how often are you going to be overkilling? Not that often. So we're just gonna put that like average. That's just an average 2-drop, in my opinion. All right. Rise of the Shadows. Battle Cry. Add a lackey to your hand. So this is just straight up better Cable Rat. And Cable Rat's played in a decent amount of decks. So we're gonna put that as high end of good 2-drop. I don't know if we could like I don't know if I'd put that as basically a 3-drop. I don't know. That's like, is +1/+1 in stats worth it to bump it up to like as the same? Like, would you play as a 2 mana or 3 mana 2/2 that gives you a lackey? I don't know. That's debatable. I'm gonna put that as a high end good 2-drop. As a high end good 2-drop. Obviously, yeah, just adding a lackey. Lackeys are very powerful, so that's good. Oldhim Feat, I guess. Sure. It gives Reborn. So this is a Shotbot, and Shotbot's pretty solid card. So we'll put that as kind of high end, good 2-drop. Kind of around the same as like Divine. It's similar in a sense to Divine Shield. So I could kind of put it there. Maybe like, yeah, I'll just leave it next to Divine Shield. It's similar to Divine Shield, like Shotbot, 2 mana 2/2 Reborn. So it's just a good card. Okay. Oldhim Windmill. So Battle Cry, add a random Oldhim Plague spell to your hand. Okay. Let me see. Oh, whoops, sorry. I forgot to pull up the lackeys. Here are the lackeys real quick if you guys need a refresher of what the lackeys were. Pretty solid overall. Yeah. Okay. Plague cards. You can get Plague of Death, sounds to destroy all minions. Very powerful. Plague of Murlocs, transform all minions to Murlocs. That's very good removal as well. Plague of Wrath, destroy all damage minions. Pretty solid removal. And then Plague of Madness, each player equips a 2/2 knife with poisonous. So you can see, I think the Plague cards are pretty solid. I think a 2-mana 2/2 that gives you a play card is pretty good, in my opinion. Like, as you can see, those are pretty good on average, like, um, yeah. Uh, I don't know. Are we putting this basically 3-drop, or what are we thinking? Lackeys, or hmm, maybe I'll put this up here and put the lackeys up here. I think, yeah. I think we'll move those 2 up. Those seem pretty good. Um, Dragons. Battlecry, Discover a Dragon. So 2/2 Discover Dragon. I'm gonna put that as a good 2-drop. Like, getting a dragon's fine. I mean, although it's not a dragon itself, so it doesn't have dragon synergy for dragon decks, but well, actually, let me think about this. Because there's the 1-mana lackey, which you discover a dragon, and that's kind of one of the meh lackeys, so maybe I'll put that kind of bottom of good 2-drop. I mean, a 2-mana 2 discover dragon's like solid, but there's like the lackey, the 1-mana 1/1 discover a dragon. So I'm just put that as a bottom of a good 2-drop. Nothing too special. Okay. Outland. Dormant for 2 turns, then deal 3 damage to 2 random enemy minions. I like this effect. Deal 3 damage to 2 random enemy minions. Like, that's a good effect. That's a pretty solid effect. So I'm going to put that as bottom of basically 3-drop, I think. Like, that's a really powerful effect. Although it's just a 2/2 in stats, like when it pops out, but being able to deal like 3 damage to 2 random enemy minions on that turn is pretty powerful. And then Scholomance, Battlecry, add a dual class card to your hand. Apparently I don't have Scholomance here, or something went wrong. Hopefully nothing went wrong. We'll pretend I'll put Scholomance, so it's add a dual class card. That's really hard to place right now because we don't, as of making this video, we don't really have enough information of all of the dual class cards to kind of tell like what the average power level of them like is. But I'd probably put that in like a good 2-drop category because they seem like solid right now, but nothing like there's a couple pretty powerful ones, but nothing like insane. So probably just like good 2-drop there. All right, there we have it. So the one OP one that I put was the getting a Death Knight card. The one garbage one I put was spending the rest of your mana to and you summon a minion of that. Oh, sorry, let me read it. It's here we go. One second. What was it under? Here we go. Old Gods. Spend all your mana, summon a minion of that cost. Like, just not great, really, I'd say. Like, meh, just meh. Like, I don't know. I just don't think it's that powerful of an effect. Like, I don't really know why you'd want to run a card that would do that, like, in your deck. Like, if you wanted to build a deck around, like, that effect, like, this does not seem that powerful to me. But as you can see, it seems like, on average, it's like a good average to good 2-drop with potential for some pretty solid ones here, and the OP potentially with the Death Knight card, but it's just so inconsistent. It's just gonna be incredibly hard to build decks with this. I mean, I think the primary function of this card, obviously, since they're giving it away for free, if you just log into your into Hearthstone right now, it's just really for fun. I think like there's gonna be some pretty interesting decks interactions with this card. I think just seeing it all in kind of wacky situations. So I think that's pretty fun. One thing I wanted to point out was someone made a combo OTK deck using the let me see. They used the Horde effect, the deal 2 damage. Deal 2 damage. They did a OTK with this deck already. I'll have the link in the description below for the YouTube video, but I think that's pretty crazy that they made an OTK with this such a random effect already, and they got it off. So that's pretty crazy. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. If you guys tell me what you guys think about this tier list, if you agree or disagree. I'll link this tier list in the description below, so you guys can make your own tier list, and you guys tell me what you think about this. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please like and subscribe.